Hello, merriment makers. Welcome to the Merriment Making podcast. I am your host, Mary, Uncustomary England. Gotta put the uncustomary in there because, at one point in my life, I really want it to be the experience when you go on Google and you type in Merry England and I come up before anything royal or the Queen or the country of England. Because right now, if you type in Merry England Baltimore or Uncustomary, then you get me. But my goodness, I am not ranking on SEO above the Queen of England and history and all that. All right, where was I going with this? Okay, today I want to talk about kindness. Kindness. So in my setup right now with social media and posting my free content for you guys on social media and YouTube and everything, I kind of have it set up so there's a theme, if you have not noticed that already. And I was doing it weekly, but I felt like it was a little too hectic for me and for you. It's a little too much to go through an entire pillar of a topic in just 1 week, So we're doing it bi-weekly now, and I know that's a confusing term because it means two different things. So I mean, we're taking 2 weeks to cover one topic. So on December 18th, we talked about kindness in Merriment Mondays, and then Merriment Mondays is now going to be an every other week situation. And then over the course of those 2 weeks, there's content, posts, tips, resources, insights, advice, podcasts, videos, all those sorts of things in my free content, newsletters, all that stuff that covers more of that topic. So for example, 2 weeks ago was the kindness topic on Merriment Mondays, and now here is the podcast on that as well. So I just wanted to share that update with you in terms of the structure. Okay, so today we are talking about kindness, and in the Merriment Mondays video for kindness, I talked about the 4 pillars of kindness and really what those are. And if you want to go watch the video on that, I definitely recommend it. There's 4 main concepts really, and I can tell you what they are right now, but going into it is much easier and helpful, I guess. So awareness, unconditionality, non-judgment, and action. And also for more information and a much better, thorough, deeper dive, all of January in the Merriment Makers, we are talking about kindness, and that's in the membership, and you get a ton of stuff in there. You get 20 resources just for that module, and you also get access to 30 existing modules, which equal about 1,000 resources. You get good news texts. You get monthly snail mail delivered to your house. You get Q&A and group coaching and live calls. You get what else do you get? Oh, I just am adding in a new thing where there's an audio program every month of how to gamify your life. So it's like how to make something like chores or errands or driving or, something that we feel is mundane much more magical. So every month we're covering a different topic, and there's a little audio program on that. There's all of the archives of Operation Merriment, and there's a bunch more stuff. So you can go check that out at the membership. That's uncustomary.org/merriment-makers, or you can just go to uncustomary.org and you can find it very easily. But all of January, we're going to be talking about kindness. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can find that very, very easily. Okay, so today the angle that I want to talk about kindness on is about empathy. So in the live video, I mentioned that, a lot of times when we think of the pillars of kindness, we are thinking about, I don't know, I've seen so many different people talk about, what is important in terms of kindness be empathy, sympathy, compassion, forgiveness, things like that. And I definitely agree with that, but I go into on the Merriment Mondays live video about why the pillars, I believe, are more action-oriented. And I also want to say that that does not eliminate empathy from the equation. That does definitely not eliminate compassion or forgiveness or sympathy from the equation. And this is where I want to talk about that. So, you know how there are TV shows that are centered around the protagonist who is actually kind of a crappy person? Or they're doing, let's maybe rephrase it to say they're doing really crappy things. Easy examples that I can think of off the top of my head are The Sopranos with Tony Soprano, who's like, a mob boss. He's in charge of a lot of organized crime. Or Mad Men with Don Draper, who is, cheating on his wife all the time and, doing things that are, he's a con man, he's literally a con man. So these are examples of people where, I don't know, one time I remember seeing this meme that had a collection of TV and movie protagonists that said, it was like a picture of all their faces, and it said, if you idolize these people, you missed the point. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. But I guess the thing is that we can watch these shows and we can begin to, maybe idolize them, but also really the point is that we were able to root for them at some point. We're able to see the humanity in them. We're able to understand them. We're able to see inside of their lives. We're able to not just see the fact that they are the labels that they are, right? Tony Soprano isn't only a mob boss. He doesn't only murder people. He doesn't only cheat on his wife. He is also showcasing his vulnerabilities, his mental illness, his panic attacks, his struggles, his conflicts, his desires that are unfulfilled, his relationship with his mother, like all these things. And they actually do such an amazing job in that show of displaying those things through the lens of his therapy sessions with Dr. Melfi. And that's one of the best examples I can think of just because of the lens that they showcase that show through. But really any show can be done, or piece of media can be done through the lens of the protagonist. And any protagonist can be any character, right? So you are the protagonist of your life. But if we were to watch an event through the lens of someone else who experienced the same event as you, you might be the villain. You have been the villain in an event that happened, right? You have done something where someone else felt victimized, or they felt like it was unfair that you got something or that didn't, even on a global standpoint, right? There's plenty of maybe people in another country that are like, it's unfair that you, part of a collective, get to have clean drinking water or whatever it is, right? It's, you are maybe you're just unaware or something, you're oblivious or taking something for granted or whatever it is, right? So there's so many different ways that but then, okay, so following that, if we're watching the movie from that person's point of view, even just where you're oblivious, right? Like you're part of this collective that's oblivious. Or we can do something more acute and affected, like where you are in a relationship and you think that you are, not the villain or something, but then you shift it and you look at the other person's perspective and you don't even realize that you have been selfish and you have been the one that has been not caring and, avoidant or something, right? Like anything. It doesn't really matter, but maybe because we're only experiencing something through the lens of our life and our past experiences, that's how something is experienced. But if you flip it and you watch the movie, you watch the TV show through the lens of somebody else, through their experience, you might learn something else. And if we were to watch the same show, if we were to watch The Sopranos through, I can't think of Edie Falco's name in The Sopranos. Oh my goodness, that's going to bother me. But if we were to watch it through her eyes, it would make Tony look way worse, right? Like, and we would also really empathize with her more, or Christopher's, or anybody, any of the other characters. It would feel like a completely different show. And we would develop much more empathy for them, even somebody that you don't like in the show. That's the whole point, is anybody, any single person that you think that you might not like, that you think that you might not have anything in common with, that you think that is a villain even, that is insane, that is horrible, that is a quote-unquote bad person. Anyone that you think is like that can be made into the protagonist with the right lighting, with the right lens, with the right perspective, with the right filter, with the right amount of time. With the right amount of time. And if you allow yourself to sit in someone else's shoes, experience the life, like that's what we're talking about, walking a mile in someone else's shoes, right? That expression. If you allow yourself to watch a movie from a different angle and be like, oh my God, can you imagine what it must be like for that person? And just spin it. That's what empathy is. That's what empathy is. And let's take it even a step further. Okay? So this is the idea that if you were able to sit down and sit with time, I'm going to talk about like the rationalization and reason of emotion. I know those things feel like maybe antithetical or they don't go together, but I actually believe that that's kind of what empathy is. Maybe there is this overwhelming urge in some of us, this gut intuition, this feeling that overwhelms you, this, oh my God, this is something that I'm feeling, that I'm overcome with. You see something, an event, you see a picture, you see an experience, you see someone, you hear something, I don't know, whatever it is, there's a stimulus, I saw pictures recently of, on Time Magazine's top 100 pictures of 2023, and it was, just documentation of a lot of really awful things that happened this year, and that's an example of, seeing something that can fill you with empathy. And that feels like, I can't imagine what that must be like, right? It's that feeling of, I feel bad for them. I don't want that for them. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for anyone. Why does this have to happen? Why is this the way? It's confusion, it's anger, it's upset, it's sad, it's grief, it's all of these things at the same time, right? But at the same time, both the parts of your brain are working. Left and right, logic and emotion. You're feeling all of these things, the confusion, the grief, the anger, the sad, but you're also, at the same time, your brain is kind of like listing out reasons why that situation is not desirable. Much like a very low standard, right? Like that, why this is such a bad thing that you don't want. So you're able to say, I wouldn't want that because I don't want to be thirsty. I don't want that because I don't want to be bleeding. I don't want that because I don't want to be alone. I don't want that because I don't want to be scared. You know those things, and you're able to identify those things, and maybe some of those desires are including feelings But there is a list of logic behind it, right? It's not only this overwhelming feeling, but logic informs feeling. This list of facts is informing your reasoning. And this reasoning is informing your feeling. Feelings don't only come from just nowhere. They come from experience. They come from, and not all the time, but they do come from understanding. And understanding is logic. So, if you can be able to, like, if you are struggling, whatever, with this ability to tap into empathy, I say use what you have working for you. Use what is available to you already. And that is very much likely logic, reasoning, understanding, vocabulary, listening, writing, talking, and then make a list of what it is you do and don't want. So let me clarify that even more. Okay, so let's go back to an example with like a protagonist. So I was saying you can have a TV show with a protagonist like Tony Soprano or Don Draper, and you can view that scenario, their life being the scenario where they are the protagonist. Like, the protagonist means that in a story, you are rooting for them. That's what that means. That's all that means. It means that that's the person that, like, you care about in the story. You're invested in them emotionally. You care. Okay? So I want you to think about, whether or not you believe in religion or God or a supernatural whatever, there's a common phrase that I hear of like, only God can judge me, or only God can know, or things like that, right? I've heard that my whole life. People from all different kinds of religions say that kind of thing. And what does that really mean? I think that means that this idea of God, this source, this power, this understanding, this omnipresent consciousness, or whatever, is the only one that can judge you because they are there all the time. And they see it all. Whatever that is. Okay? Just work with me. So, the only reason they can judge you, and the only reason that person would be surrendering to that judgment, is because they see it all. Not just the bad, but the good as well. The neutral, the mundane, the meaningless, the things that you're not posting on social media, the things that you're not admitting to, the things that are secret, the things that do and do not matter, whatever that is labeled or not. So judgment only is allowed when the whole picture is in place. When the whole picture can be seen, when you are zoomed out so far that you understand an entire life. And who else can really do that except you, someone who has lived the entire way, the entire time, and been there the whole time, or another presence that we are deciding, for the sake of this argument, does exist. Or Santa. Okay, so I then want to take this into, that's what we mean when we say you don't know what someone else is experiencing. When we say, like, you don't know what someone else went through that day. Yeah, you don't know what someone else went through when they were 5 or last weekend or 4 years ago that might be, like, coming up right now. You have no idea. So empathy isn't just giving someone the benefit of the doubt. It's also understanding that you kind of need to assume that people are inherently good. And by that, I mean, if you believe that you are inherently good, And we know that you've also done some bad stuff, right? We know that you've done something that you are not proud of, something that is uncool or shameful or not nice or unkind or whatever. But you can rationalize it. You can rationalize it, right? You can sit down and say, like, I was doing the best with what I had. That happened because I was struggling. That happened because I was in poverty. That happened because of my circumstances. That happened because I was mentally ill. That happened because I was in pain. That happened because I was in grief. That happened because da 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 da. And you know what? You're right. You're absolutely fucking right. That is why that happened. I'm not here to deny you or anyone the reasoning for your circumstances. Do I believe that we can change? Yes. Do I believe that we can make different decisions? Yes. And the reason we did the things that we did is because of what was happening. And those are very important to consider. So when we are sitting down with ourselves and we're thinking, am I really a good person? And you can rationalize those things because of your circumstances in the past, especially environmental circumstances, my goodness, then, or biological, everything. Circumstances do matter. I'm so tired of hearing like that they don't. I don't know. Like, I believe both things. That's the problem. I believe that circumstances deeply impact our ability to make decisions, because sometimes we don't have good decisions to make. But I also believe that we can make a decision to change. But sometimes our circumstances deny us the ability to make that decision. And that's the struggle. But I believe it's intelligent to hold two ideas at once. So I don't know. It's difficult. Anyway, empathy is the idea that if you were to sit down and see someone else's life with the same heart and maybe neutrality as your own, that you would be able to rationalize that they too are inherently good, that every decision that they made was also because they were in pain, they were in grief, they were in struggle, they were in poverty, they were doing the best that they could with what they had. And if you can do that with any person, including yourself, that's empathy. So that's what I meant earlier when I said, use what you have working for you. Use the fact that you can rationalize. Most of us, I don't know most of us, but I think that when we're struggling with the ability to empathize, that means that our logic brain is probably working, a little bit more actively. So that's why I'm saying use what you have working for you. You can talk, you can reason, right? You can understand. So use that to your advantage. And rationalize. Consider the circumstances and think of a reason why, if you were watching the movie where this person was Tony Soprano in their version of the series of The Sopranos, but it's, your neighbor or your mom or whoever, could you, after 6 seasons, be like, yeah, I kind of get it. I mean, they're still a dick, but I get it. I'm not going to idolize them. I don't have to go out with them. I don't have to hang out with them. I don't have to do Christmas with them. I'm not going to hang out with Tony Soprano, but do I get them? Do I get why they got here? Yeah. I am not going to choose to hang out with Tony Soprano. No. It's maybe straight up dangerous, right? But do I understand? Yeah. I mean, understand is a logical thing. Empathy is an emotional thing. And yet, I think that they might be synonymous. So, practice empathy And if you can do that, and then also the 4 pillars that I mentioned in the Merriment Mondays live episode, which are more about taking action, you will be a walking, talking, aligned version of a merriment making, kindness spreading joy machine. And if that's what you want, if kindness is something that is of value to you, which I imagine that it is if you're listening to this, I think these are really great ways to begin and to continue and to stay strong. And we need more kindness in the world. This I know. Not because it's necessarily lacking, but because we can't have enough of it. You have to feel good to do good. I love you. Thank you for listening.